to Secrets of a B2B Marketer. Today we have with us Ms. Shivani Lorai, who's a sales and marketing professional with over 20 years of experience across real estate, hospitality, and media, managing teams across the country. She's currently the GM, Marketing and Client Engagement at Nucleus Office Parks. Welcome to the show, Shivani.
Thanks, Benita. Thanks for having me here.
It's honestly a pleasure, Shivani, and we're very excited to unravel some of your secrets. So, are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing I want to ask you is an incident which is a milestone success for you, which you're very proud of.
The first thing that comes to my mind is much closer home, which is 1 Green Mile that's on Lower Parel, Senapati Bapat Marg in Mumbai. And if anyone's done any business at all in Mumbai would know of this place. It has all the bearings of a great business district. We were getting a lot of hesitation from the general audience, commuters, people who were doing business here. And we were wondering how is it that we can talk about Lower Parel in a better way, and of course we were doing this whole project and we realized traffic was a big concern, or was one of the concerns, etc. So we decided to redo the entire street, do away with the with the encroachments, illegal parkings, etc. So long story short, while we had taken this entire project up, the brief to me from my management was that make sure Lower Parel comes up really well in everyone's minds, and it's not it's not just another business district. And I was new from Delhi. I did not know Bombay that well, and it was just a couple of months since I had moved in. And so the first thing I started doing was start calling up my agencies. I started fixing up meetings with them. And I asked them one simple question that when you think of Lower Parel, what comes into your mind? And they said, oh my God, they would always shudder and say traffic. And I said, okay, so one agency, and all of them said the same thing. And I said, okay, so that's one change any which ways we are working on. And that became my campaign, which is one change coming soon. And we ran with it, and it became an instant hit. Everybody wanted to know what is that one change that is coming up in Lower Parel. And when we actually unveiled with the video and with the entire pomp and show that we did in the media, etc., it was very well received. But from a marketer's perspective, this was a massive project for us to be able to bring all the attention and eyes onto Lower Parel, and that one change is something. I mean, you can keep talking about. It's got great shopping areas, good F&B, everybody knows of that, right? But you need to address that one problem and really talk about it and keep hammering that and visually show what the change was, right? What it is and what it's becoming and what one can expect. So that was a big one for us. And incidentally, on Monday, we will complete, which is 23rd January. We will complete 1 year of its inauguration. So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big milestone.
Yeah.
You, okay? Having lived in Mumbai, I think you are absolutely bang on. When one thinks of Lower Parel, one thinks of traffic, one thinks of, if I may say, the pain of going there all the way. You and I meet often, and you know how I feel about Lower Parel too. I'm very skeptical of coming all the way there.
Yeah.
But I think you guys nailed it, and that's a brilliant story. Let me give this a spin and ask you, if our audience wanted to replicate your success, what do you think is something they can do?
I think the biggest thing is to really quickly adapt, because I've worked across industries, right? I've not been unlike many, I've been changing my industries. And for me, my biggest success mantra has been quick adaptability adaptability, quickly, be able to make connects within the industry, quickly get along with my colleagues. So speed is of essence here, right? And the moment you're able to understand your product, so whatever you need to do, understand your product really well and be convinced of it. If you're not convinced, find ways, because you're in the job now, right? You've accepted the job, and to some extent you took the job up because you were convinced about the company or the money was really good. But either way, figure the USPs that are there of the product. If you are convinced, you will automatically find ways of convincing your customers, your product, your target audience. It's like when you're actually talking about your child, when the child needs to get admission into a school, you're convinced about your kid, right? And somewhere that the kid is spoiled, the pluses and the minuses of your child, but you're only going to just highlight and present the kid in the best possible way. So you just need to adapt. That is not rocket science. I think it's just simple common sense, as to what are the elements that you need to get convinced about and start pitching that immediately.
Absolutely, bang on. I think the child certainly hits home for me, and I suppose for most of the readers too. And you're right, our businesses, there is no perfect business. Every business will have its ups and downs. It will have its pros and cons. We all have things that we don't particularly want to showcase to the world. And that's fine. But there are things about our business that are worth showcasing to the world. And I think you know it by saying that we need to show that to the world. I think that's a huge takeaway for me. And I certainly, while I have been doing it, I will now be dwelling a lot more on this and thinking through what more can I showcase about my business to the world. So thanks for sharing that, Shivani. A little more difficult thing to share is also not so successful experiences we had, right? And I'm going to put you in that spot. Tell me of an experience that didn't yield the results that you thought it would, and in hindsight, what could you have done differently about it?
Yeah, one instance stands out a lot in my head is when I was consulting. I was a retail consultant for about 5-6 years. And while I had some clients from Germany, some Indian clients, etc., I had a very close friend in Israel, and she knew that I was in the retail consulting space. And she said, Israel is having the largest retail conference, and I think you should be here. So she did whatever it is, and the organizers, they called me, and I was super kicked about it because I said, I'm going to sell the India story, and I had a whole video ready and my pitch was ready, and I said, this is it, because nothing like India. And I was convinced about India, right? So on the flip side. So, but what I didn't do is really understand the Israeli behavior. So I landed up there, and of course they don't care about English, they only speak in Hebrew. That aside, when I went into the conference, there were a lot of pitches being made and people were talking about their products, and there was this whole panel discussion. Everything was in Hebrew. I was the only English speaking presenter. So that was very, very difficult for me because language was number one, a big barrier. Second, what I didn't realize is Israelis want to do business right there, right now. You can keep, unlike Indians, they like the storytelling and they want to play along with it. For them, it was like, great, you've got a great story, but tell me right now, what is it that we can close right now? And I didn't have that, right? For me, I went on stage, I presented, and I thought in my head, I was thinking I'll be inundated with requests and connects and business card exchanges and all of that, which did happen, but while I was speaking, about at least 1/4 of the people walked out. They just walked out of the hall, and that again, while I'm on the stage, it's the worst nightmare for anyone, for any presenter, to see people get up and walk away. So in my head, I was saying it's all right. My product to them for this segment, it doesn't work for them, but at least for those who are sitting, it works. Then I did have about 5-6 people walk up to me, exchange cards. They wanted to do business immediately, so much so. And this was at Eilat, and we had to. The next day we were going to Tel Aviv, and I had my meetings fixed back to back with them. In fact, one person actually picked me up at 7 o'clock in the morning, took me to his factory to share what is it that he had and what are the products that he could bring into India, what audience, etc. And I wasn't 100% aware. For me, everything was like, okay, I'll take your product, let me go back, I'll talk. And it wasn't enough for them, right? And so in short, I wasn't 100% prepared for Israelis. What I should have done on the hindsight is take someone really senior from the industry along with me, someone who's probably working with say a Shoppers Stop or Central or someone who really has years of experience in the retail industry, pure retailer, and who would be able to guide them, consult them immediately and say that, okay, this is what the government policies are on your product. Can you get leather in? You can't get leather in. What sort of milk products can you get in? And whether it's an ice cream or a shoe maker or who was completely equipped, and for me to work with that person and then the Israelis. So it just didn't work too well. I really just got one client from Israel, but I think that's not bad. But
Absolutely.
yeah, but it was a big learning for me.
And so here's a beautiful thing, Shivani. I think failures are the stepping stone to success.
Yeah.
Especially the lessons we learn. Success is nice to have, but the lessons that failures teach us are super.
Right.
And in your case, it wasn't even a failure, right? You still managed to come back with one client. And kudos to you for pulling that off, because I don't think I could have done that, And when you were talking about being on stage as the only English speaker, I was thinking of my experience of running off the stage out of anxiety. So that's a true story. I ran off the stage. This is, of course, college days, but I ran off the stage out of anxiety, and I've come a long ways, thankfully, since then.
Yeah, it was crazy. And the worst is that the speakers before me were not even looking at their slide. They were it was just non-stop speaking, and that also scared me, because I knew my script, I knew I had the video, I had everything, I had my deck, but one was to be able to convey what I had to say in my language to someone who's comfortable with Hebrew, right? And in fact, later on and I remember people clicking pictures of my presentation, which I really liked, so I know, okay, at least these 5, 6, 8 people are somewhere intrigued by the India story. But there was a point, and even the organizer said, avoid looking at at your screen or at the script, right? Just go with the flow. It's okay. In fact, my friend was standing right in front and she was trying to encourage me. But there was a point when I said, forget it. I am going to look at my script. I cannot fumble. It doesn't matter. I'm from India and they have to accept it that this is how Indians are. Finished. Let them make their own judgment. I'm also judging you. It's all right. So I ended up looking at my script and not really. And you do get intimidated and you do want to be a part of the majority. That's human psyche.
Yes.
But somewhere you need to be mentally strong and say, what's working for me right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, it makes me think the one common thread that's coming out between both your stories is research. If I go one layer deeper, then you did a fantastic job with your research with Lower Parel, right? Even though you were new to the city, you spoke to people. I mean, as preliminary as that, it's critical to do your research. It's important to know your target audience. And it's important to understand who you will be addressing. And that is the difference between your two stories, right? In one case you did, in one case you didn't, and kind of changed the whole result altogether. So
Yeah.
to me, that's the huge takeaway, that research your target audience, identify what they are about. And as a marketer, I think at least in my case, I feel sometimes we make these hypotheses. We think we are making the hypothesis, but we never test it, and therefore it ends up becoming an assumption, right?
Yeah.
We think we know our target audience. This is
Yeah.
what we want. And because we think this is what they want, we serve that to them.
Yeah.
Exactly what they want. So research target audience is crucial.
Beautiful.
And that's to me a huge takeaway from our talk so far. Sharing those. And I would say it's very, very brave of you to be able to put this out there. I know it must not be easy. So thanks a lot for sharing this story.
You're welcome.
I'm going to give you a small respite and ask you to also share a secret, or a myth rather, that you can debunk pertinent to your industry. Marketing myth, but pertinent to your industry.
I think the biggest marketing or not, but the biggest myth about the real estate industry is that it's a landlord-lessee relationship, where the landlord sells the space or leases out a space and then just looks at taking on a rent. But that in the very recent past has changed quite a lot. Globally, I would say, and in India also, it's picked up very fast, which is focus on the tenant, right? It's not just at the moment you have leased out a space, that's it, and all hands off, give me my rent and that's it, right? Now there's a lot of focus on occupier employee health, on green practices within the building, on approach to the building, on amenities within the building. What F&Bs options do you have within and outside of the building? What sort of community engagement activities are you doing within the building, right? So it's no more about just space or location. It's much more than that, and now even the occupiers are demanding that. They know that there is climate change. They're also very aware. They know that employee health and safety is of prime importance, and they're demanding that, right? So that entire shift has happened quite a lot, and now from being more a landlord market has become more a occupier or a client market, let me say that.
Okay, very interesting. Do you see this happening only in the metro cities, or is this a trend you notice even in beachier and deeper interiors of the country?
So even in the interiors, the largest landlords will be your MNCs. So post the pandemic, I would say, with this whole hybrid model that has come into the fore, while a lot of corporates want all of their employees to come to office, they've also realized that during the pandemic, those who had shifted out are probably not very comfortable to come back into a metro. And they want to provide office spaces, and the organization still wants them to work out of an office, and probably a lot of employees also want to work out of an office, but not maybe change the city again. And for that reason, they are creating, when I say they, means the MNCs or the corporates are creating office spaces in non-metro cities as well, right? So but their standards of construction, their demands, their green practices, all that they expect in a metro, they would expect that in a non-metro as well for their employees. So they can't have two standards for different employees just because they're placed in different cities. So the developers in non-metro cities have to buckle up, right? And have to come up to the international standards, or at least to the metro standards of what is expected. While they might not be able to provide world-class services, but they will have to make that endeavor to meet expectations, especially in the health and green practices space.
Okay, I think what you're saying makes sense, and it makes me very happy that at least some companies, I think it starts with the bigger ones, right? They are interested, and not just interested, but actually doing something about the environment. Because growing up, we all heard about climate change. And then as adults, we're experiencing climate change in an entirely different way than we probably studied about. So it's good to see businesses actually take action towards this. And I'm very happy that it's happening not just in the metros, but also in the interiors, where we've still managed to maintain some amount of environmental protectiveness. As a marketer, there are some words that are very common to us, right? Sustainability being one of them. And so I want to do a quick rapid fire with you and see how you respond to these common and not so common words. Okay, I'm going to mix it all up. And let the true Shivani shine out of it. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Just share whatever's the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Let's start with Shivani.
Strong, communicative, powerful.
Brilliant. That's a Shivani I know, so yes, I'll endorse that.
Thanks.
Power.
Responsibility.
With great power comes great responsibility. Good one. Sustainability.
Consciousness.
Marketing.
That's a broad one considering it's my own subject, but I think marketing is also a responsibility. You're taking responsibility for what you're speaking, and you expect people to believe you. So while you're glorifying some things, but you need to be very sure that what you're glorifying, you will be able to, or your team will be able to live up to it.
Okay, very true. ROI.
ROX.
What is ROX?
I'll tell you later. Return on experience.
All right. That's an interesting one. Return on experience. So for 2022, my pinned tweet was experience is the next big thing in marketing. So I'm very intrigued by your answer. We're going to have another chat, maybe offline, about ROX. But yes, certainly an interesting word. And finally, CTA.
Critical.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing those. I think this is a good round. Unlike Karan Johar, I don't have a basket to give you.
I'll take it offline.
Absolutely. Happy to take you out for a cup of coffee any day. I'm sure our listeners would want to have a sneak peek then, so we'll figure out if there's a way we can live stream that or something.
100%, I'm up for it.
Awesome. Okay, as we come towards this point, I'm thinking, what is that one question that let me give this a spin. What is the one question you think I should have asked you?
I think you should have asked me if I'm selling a product or a service, or I'm marketing a product or a service.
Okay, and what would be your answer to that?
Both. So a product is so our buildings have to be grade A, they have to be top of the line, and like I had mentioned before also, we are one of the best in the industry, if not the best. So when I talk about grade A buildings, means great location, and if you go back not just too far away, just about a decade away, of maybe just in 6-7 years back, when you think of, or when you would think of real estate, you would think of location. But now it's no more just location. Yes, location is there, but what about the quality of the building? So you've got a great location, but your building quality is poor. You don't have good green practices. You don't have good amenities. When I talk about amenities, I'm talking about crash, gym, a club, a watering hole, the works, right? A sports zone, if required, right? People want to have that balance in their lives, even while they're working. It's not just about sitting on your desk and working, 8-9 hours, whatever that you have. Is there any green spaces where people can just go for a walk and feel refreshed and come back on their desk, right? What sort of community engagements? And I mentioned this before as well. So so you have location, you have the product, but if you don't have a good service, right? If the security is lax or the security on ground is too tough, for the visitors, the occupiers will not like it. They say, my visitors are coming into my office. So they need to be trained in a way where they're firm but very polite. So it goes right till the last mile. Your receptionist on the ground floor, your housekeeping, your electricians, your response time, operational response time. So in fact, when I joined this company as lead client engagement, a lot of my occupiers were very surprised. They said, we've never had in our tenure of 20-30 years a landlord walking up to us and saying, what do you want? How can we make your stay with us better? So that came as a surprise to me, because I have come from a hospitality industry, and and for hoteliers, service is everything. Versus here, when I'm talking to clients and they felt that, so for them the first reaction would be operational issues. What do you want from me? Why are you talking to me, right? I said, no, it's not operation. Tell me, what more can I do for you, right? And being the level that, or the standard that we of the organization that we are, some things are taken for granted in terms of the response time and the kind of operational service that we do. But what more, right? So that's where I come to experience, right? And that's where I'm talking about return on experience, right? When I talk about return on experience, it goes beyond just customer experience. It starts from employee experience. And if we go right back to our conversation when we had started talking about, I don't know if we spoke about it, but in my head, I think we did, where I said that if you want to give a fab customer experience, you have to start with your employees. Your employees are the people who are going to be providing that, right? If they are happy, if they are convinced about your product and they're happy with working within the system, they will happily go all out to make sure that the customers of the company are really happy and satisfied. It will translate into your vendors providing a great experience to you. So you'll get superior service from yourself, which will help you deliver a great product and service to your occupiers. So, I could be in my office or my building could be in Jaipur or Udaipur. It need not be in Bombay or a grade A top city location, etc. So location is now no more everything. It is very important. Connectivity to the building, how easily are people, the last mile connectivity, for example, right? How far is the station from the office? So, for example, in Lower Parel, where our buildings are, the station is right behind our building. So people just get out of the station and get into the building. There's no need for a rickshaw or a taxi or a whatever, right? So that has really worked for us in terms of location. Then we have to come down to the services and the green building certifications, etc. So you just have to do everything possible to upgrade and consistently work on yourself and the employees who are working with you.
No, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to take a pause here, and for the benefit of our listeners who are not from Mumbai, who don't understand why do you need a station for office, a local train is a lifeline for Mumbai. You will find some of the top-notch management people also commuting by local trains. Sure, they'll probably use a first class or an AC train, but they will still use a train over a car ride. Just to cite an example, my husband, who's the head of capital markets at Sharekhan, sometimes prefers taking a train back home because the car ride is about 2.5 hours and a train ride is 40 minutes. So that's the difference. I'm just trying to put a context here for our listeners on why is the station important. So in Mumbai, an office close to the station is crucial. In fact, when I did have an office, now we are a work from home organization, but when I did have an office, my team kind of preferred that I have an office close to the station. And so what started happening was we started seeing a difference when we moved our office close to the station. We started seeing a difference in the quality of recruitment we could do. It's really that much of a difference that it makes. And so to that effect, I think it's important what you're saying. Yes, location is important, and to that extent, yes, station matters, but it also the thought that goes beyond just the location in that context, right? It's the thought of who's going to be there and what do they need. Again, boils down to the research, boils down to the target audience, boils down to knowing who they are. So I think that's a crucial one.
Yeah.
Sharing that insight. In fact, now that you've shared these insights so openly, I'm tempted to ask you to also share one secret that is relevant for a B2B marketer. And this has to be relevant for a B2B marketer specifically, please.
So the other day I was talking to someone in my office, someone senior in my office, and I was telling him that, you have a lot of focus on customers and their experience, etc. That's more a outside approach, right? But you have to have a inside out approach, right? Biggest marketeers are your own employees, are your existing vendors, are your existing partners, are your existing clients and their employees, and because they are the ones who are dealing with you, interacting with you on a day-to-day basis, right? And they are your spokespeople. Outside. I don't have, even and I'll be very honest in saying, in a B2B space, you don't have budgets to market your product like an FMCG would or an HUL would, right? Not even like an automaker. So with limited budgets, we have to be very sure of what sort of message we are trying to convey outside in the world. And we have about our customers are not just our occupiers, it's their employees, it's the government who we work very closely, it's our partners, who help us lease the spaces out. It's also, most critically, it's also our employees. If your employee is not happy, over a cup of coffee or over a social gathering, he in a frustrated state of mind might not speak very positively about his own company because he's frustrated. Somewhere he needs to vent out. So your first focus has to be, is the employee happy, right? If he is happy, he is going to fight till the end for his company, saying my company, because why? Because his company is his identity.
Yeah.
Your work is your identity. The first question that you get asked in any social gathering is, what do you do? And the second is, where do you work, right? What's the name of your company? So, and you take a lot of pride in saying that, right? And if you're able to amplify that sentiment into the employees, you have the biggest, if I'm making friends casually over a smoke or a drink or a coffee with an occupier or their employee, he could be a simple assistant manager or an executive working in an X company, but I've befriended him. And you, of course, exchange notes on how your company is, how is it working out for you. The passion with which I speak for my company will reflect in my tone. Right, will get passed on to the other person that I'm talking to. Even if I'm talking to my client, and I'm trying to pitch my product, the passion and the sentiment I experience, and that person has to experience that when I'm talking to him or her, right? And that comes from your employee experience, and it's not just an HR job.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It comes from the top. It's not rested on just the HR. So HR will do what they have to do, but it's more to do with the entire culture of the company, your bosses, your colleagues. How do you treat each other? Are you great friends? Do you have a good friend within the system? Small things, which, and we're all human beings, right? And marketing is about touching that chord in another human being, and that chord, once you touch, you will have a buy-in, right? It's all about building relationships, and that's something that we as an organization focus a lot on, which is building quality, valuable relationships internally and externally with our occupiers, and that's your stickiness. So while you do everything on the surface, you're building the amenities, and everyone is doing that. All great occupiers are, all great developers are doing that, investors are doing that, but it's the heart connect that you're able to establish that builds in the stickiness. Heart connect, not just one-on-one, but with the service, with the building, with the pride that you're working at an X address, with day-to-day interactions. That's B2B marketing for me.
Bang on. In fact, in my experience, a lot of B2B marketers, or at least that's a myth. I don't know if all B2B marketers feel that way, but there is this myth that B2B marketing is very straitjacketed and it's very technical, etc. But I like to think of B2B marketing being as much human to human as any B2C, D2C, or any other firms that you could think of. Because at the end of the day, even if business, it's a human being doing a business with another human being, and therefore the human connect is important. I think you were quite bang on when you said there has to be a stickiness, and there has to be something that's beyond your typical what everybody else is doing. And employees certainly are, I think they make or break the marketing, especially true in B2B, where the undercurrents of the business are far more than what meets the eye. So to that effect, I think you've really shared beautiful insights with us. I think if I could sum up the three things that I take back home today: number one, research, especially research your target audience. Two is in terms of thinking beyond, like as a marketer, we think about what is the USP, but what we don't think about is what else is there that's really worth marketing my company about, or worth talking about in my company. So that's a good takeaway that I have. And third, that I think we can take back from this conversation is also the importance of catering to our employees and making sure that they are happy, because they are crucial to making or breaking our marketing. Have I got everything? Did I miss a certain point that you were making?
No, you certainly were listening. So you've summed it up beautifully. And I really enjoyed this session, Benita. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a great experience. And I'd love to share more if you'd like anytime.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We loved having you on the show. I love the fact that you were so candid and so transparent and open. It takes a brave heart to be able to share everything that you did. So I'm very proud to say that I know you not just as a marketer, but as a friend. And I'm very happy that you agreed to be on this show. And I look forward to further conversations. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to leave a question window open for our listeners. And if they have a bunch of questions, then we will certainly want to address those with you, perhaps on another episode.
Sure.
Thank you so much
Sure. I'd love to.
Thanks a lot, Shivani.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Likewise, I just loved it. Thanks for having me.